Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Another week, another episode. This is Stats Over Politics. As always, I'm your host, Shaun alongside my guy, Mr. Jaevon, who's taking pictures right now. We're back for another episode number 172. Just Shaun and Vaughn tonight. Kevin's unable to make it. We may have a guest appearance from none other than Kaz Johnson of Just Casually later in the show, but for the time being, it's Shaun and Vaughn here on episode number 172 of Stats Over Politics. Jaevon, I'm a bit sad because my GOAT, John Cena, retired this past weekend and he called it a career in the WWE. So I feel a little somber right now, but how are you doing overall?
Feeling good. Niners won. Yeah, to go to your point, John Cena's last match was yesterday, so that was like a pretty big deal for all the people who are like ages 25 and up, 23 and up. I mean,
Shit, dude, I think John Cena still was like a big fan with the kids. Like
well, he
we
like
all
came
grew
out
up fans.
when we were
Yeah.
younger, and then he kind of like came back and like reinvented himself in this new era. You could probably speak a little bit more to the newer era of wrestling, but yeah, I thought it was really cool. The what was the like event yesterday? Like which pay per view was it? Was
Well,
it
on
like
Saturday it was they brought back a show that used to be around in the 80s and 90s called Saturday Night's Main Event that
yes?
goes on NBC on a week that they're not having Saturday Night Live on. WWE used to do that back in the day. Now they revived it. And so it wasn't necessarily a pay-per-view or premium live event as they
It
call it
wasn't like
now.
a Summer Slam or
No, but it was Saturday night's main event on NBC and Peacock, so it was on in a primetime slot on NBC on Saturday night.
Survivor
Yeah,
Series. You know those
no.
little.
Well, his last premium live event was Survivor Series in
There we
San
go.
Diego, and so yeah, he's done now, and it made me sad. I got my WrestleMania shirt on from when it came to LA a couple years ago, and I got to see John Cena compete at WrestleMania twice, and so I'm grateful for that. And as we get things started here on episode number 172 of Stats Over Politics, got to give a shout out to Grey Wolf, who's always tapping in saying, "Evening, gentlemen." Sad moment watching Cena's last match. It was indeed. But, life goes on. And so we appreciate you all for tuning in here on episode 172. Javon, let's not waste any more time because I was a bit somber about John Cena, but it was kind of a somber week 15 in the NFL as we're starting things off with the Chargers beating the Chiefs 16-13. Normally, excuse me, normally there would be a lot of people, you and I included, very happy that the Chiefs have experienced their downfall this season, and were officially eliminated from the playoffs for the first time since 2014 on Sunday. But it was sad because Patrick Mahomes got hurt. He tore his ACL in the final minute of the game. And so now it's not only the Chiefs getting eliminated by the Chargers, but also Mahomes is done for the rest of the year, and it could impact next season. We don't know if Travis Kelce is going to retire or not. And so overall, it's a pretty sad situation in Kansas City. Like you and I, as fans of a team that lost to Kansas City, not once, but twice in the Super Bowl, like my girlfriend Allie, I know she always roots against the Chiefs and she's been plotting on their downfall, but I know none of us were really happy with Mahomes getting hurt. So it's kind of two-sided here, Javon, but just what were your thoughts on the Chiefs losing to the Chargers 16-13?
Going into this game, the Chargers were coming off a very emotional victory on Monday Night Football against the Eagles, who Kev was a little bit somber about after that game on Monday Night Football. But them just to be very short-handed on the offensive line. Obviously, Justin Herbert has the broken hand that he's still been playing an issue with, and the Chargers have been kind of throughout the whole entire of their season. They've just been winning games ugly, and for them to pull this victory out on the road as 5.5 point underdogs, I thought this game was very tough telling about what the Chiefs were looking like pretty much all season and what the Chargers have been like all season. And I think as far as the from the beginning of the year, the Chiefs were shorthanded at receiver, and they were, oh, well, they're missing this guy, and they still got to knock the rust off. They'll figure it out eventually. And you just kept kicking that can down the road. Hey, eventually the Chiefs are going to kick. They're going to figure it out. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. he's this, he's that. He's going to put his cape on. He's going to put, and we've seen flashes of that as the season has kind of progressed. You see little flashes of the Chiefs, like, hey, oh, they're the Chiefs that came back down from this team or whatever. You know, if this or this would have happened. And I think last year, a lot of these one-score games that they're losing currently, they were getting every single break imaginable last year, like the block kicked against Denver or a tipped pass, an interception, a long bomb that bounced the right way for them. They're not getting that this year. And I think it's starting to, it obviously has been showing the entire year. And I mean, you had Chris Jones at the press conference like, hey, man, we still got a fighting chance. And then, and then the reporter's like, you've been eliminated. his whole
Stats over politics.
Like, yeah, his whole demeanor was like, oh. And so the long period of time of Mahomes' future, Travis Kelce's future, Chris Jones' future. I think Chris Jones is an older, expensive player who hasn't been performing to the level that we've seen him perform at. Travis Kelce has already kind of been teetering with the R word, retirement. And he's kind of been, you know, he's got his podcast, he's got this going, he's getting married. There's like a whole different dynamic. So he's kind of started to pivot a little bit from just being all in. And I think where they're at as a team currently, they're not good. Obviously not, because they're missing the playoffs. And I don't know why people are starting to come for Andy Reid. Like, let's relax. Let's relax on. This is the first time since I think 1998 that Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes have not been in the playoffs. So let's just take a step back and just realize for what it is, how good this Chiefs dynasty was. Because I think they're starting to transition into a different version of themselves. Patrick Mahomes is, Kevin is a guy who just, as soon as you hit 30 years old, your clock just magically starts to start ticking. And Mahomes obviously is at that age currently right now. He's 30 and has the torn ACL. I don't know where Brett Veach and the Chiefs are as far as Patrick Mahomes' future for next year. But I know that the competitor in Patrick Mahomes is like, I want to be back as soon as possible. They can look at it from a different perspective of, hey, we've been picking 32nd or 31st for the past however long we've been. Since Patrick Mahomes has been our quarterback, we've always been in the AFC Championship, Super Bowl, AFC Championship, Super Bowl, AFC Championship, Super Bowl. We're always picking last in the draft. Now maybe we might be able to creep up into that 12, 13, 14, and maybe we can trade up and get into the top 10 and get one of those premier players that a lot of, you know, shittier teams usually get. So next year, they could be like, hey, man, we love you. You're making all this money. We can restructure your contract to where you can get paid a little bit more up front. Maybe you can just take the year off and say, hey, we'll start Gardner Minshew the entire year. Not ideal, because Chiefs fans want to win and they've been so accustomed to winning. But they can look at it from a different lens of saying, hey, Mahomes sits out the remainder of the year, or he sits out, let's say, 12 games, and he comes back later in the season. They're already behind the 8 ball. They're what? 5-9, but he wants to come back and do this. There, at that point, I just don't think there would be a logical reason to bring him back. But at the same time, you could look at it from, hey, let's just not rush you back, because if you get hurt again, you're the franchise. We don't want you to come back and try to re-aggravate something that we know usually takes 8 to 9 to 10 to sometimes 12 months, depending on the person and how their body reacts to treatment and reacts to rehab. So they could get a top 10-5 pick if Mahomes kind of takes a year off. And then Kevin sent me something ridiculous, or just telling me something ridiculous. They could get Jeremiah Smith and then Patrick Mahomes. The league would be on fire. I don't.
Lord, please, no. No.
I don't know if the world could handle that. I don't know if the NFL could handle that.
Jaevon, it's already enough for me. It's already enough for me as an Ohio State fan who's also a 49ers fan. It's enough for me to see Marvin Harrison Jr. on the Cardinals and to see Jackson Smith and Jigba on the Seahawks, two of our main rivals. It's enough for me. So I don't need Jeremiah Smith on the Chiefs. That would be dreadful.
That would be insane because he's going to definitely be a top 5 pick. And the projection I'm saying is if Patrick Mahomes doesn't rushing back is we're in December now. That's like around the timeline of people are saying usually ACL recoveries is like a year, but now people are like saying it's kind of been shortened to like 9 months, 8 months, like in that time frame. But
depending on how diligent you are with your rehab.
Yeah, it depends on the rehab process. I mean, hell, I'm seeing Fred Warner shatter his ankle, and people are talking about he'd be ready for the playoffs. So I mean, it's a whole lot. It all depends on how you attack the rehab, and we all know what Patrick Mahomes is capable of. But the Chiefs they're kind of in a decline, but this is kind of more of a reset period for them, and how to retool the second half of Patrick Mahomes' career, because first half is already a Hall of Fame career. Now the second half is how do you retool around that, get a little bit younger, go heavy in the draft, and go about it that way. The Chargers are, once again, just knocking on that door. Just one of those teams a lot of people in the AFC aren't really talking about. Hey, we're still over here, guys. We're winning games. We got a really good quarterback. Harbaugh, once again, is just home run hire. A lot of people, I mean, me and you know from experience on how good of a coach Jim Harbaugh is. And he can turn your team around overnight, basically. Just got to give him the reins, and he's going to figure it out. I mean, their quarterback is one-handed right now, and they're still winning games. So come playoff time, there'll definitely be a tough out. This defense has been playing phenomenal the past couple of weeks. So, guy, tip your cap to Harbaugh and Herbert for going out there and making it happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Chargers there at the end, because a lot of the storyline from this game is, the fact that the Chiefs were eliminated from the playoffs for the first time since 2014. But the Chargers had to go there and beat them. And they didn't just beat them at Arrowhead. They swept them this season, because let's not forget that the Chargers won the season opener in Brazil against against the Chiefs. And so the Chargers, they are a real contender. But now we look at the Chiefs and we could finally say, I don't know if we can necessarily say the Chiefs dynasty is over, because to me, already having 3 rings, while Mahomes is there, the dynasty is still active, especially while Mahomes and Andy Reid are there. The dynasty is still active. Travis Kelce may have retired, and that's going to be a huge piece no longer on the team. But as long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are there in Kansas City, the dynasty continues for me. They're not going to win the Super Bowl every single season, but damn, they came close a lot over these last 6-7 years, getting 3 championships, getting to the game twice, and making it to the AFC Championship every single year. And so we look at the fact that the Chiefs are no longer in the dance. But I saw this stat, and we're going to get to the Rams later in our fast rundown. But I saw this stat, Jaevon, and it honestly made me sick, because this is from @Ben Baldwin on Twitter. He says, NFL season since Patrick Mahomes became starter. Starting in 2018, the Rams won the NFC. Then the Chiefs won the AFC in 2019 and 2020. The Rams won the NFC in 2021. Then the Chiefs won the AFC 2022 through 2024. So it's basically saying, since Patrick Mahomes has been a starter, that either the Chiefs are going to win the AFC or the Rams are going to win the NFC.
Oh, no.
I would love to see this streak come to an end. I saw it. I thought it was a little bit jarring for us as 49ers fans, but I hope that streak comes to an end. And now getting to this next game, it was another somber ending to this game, because in what should have been a great matchup between the Broncos and the Packers, which it was, the Broncos won 34-26. It was somber because another superstar goes down in this game with a torn ACL. That superstar being Micah Parsons, who, as we remember, just got traded to Green Bay right before this season started from Dallas, and is having a great season. The Packers look like contenders. Packers maybe still will be contenders after this injury, but it's a huge blow to Green Bay, who loses on the road against Denver, who is a great team in their own right. But they lose Micah Parsons, which is the bigger loss. And so, Jaevon, what was your reaction to not only the news of Parsons, but also the fact that the Broncos got another big win?
Hand up, I did pick the Packers to win this game. However, does not change the fact that I said Denver Broncos were best team in the NFL. I think the Packers are one of those top teams in the NFC that who been getting a lot of traction the last couple of weeks. I thought Jordan Love has been playing well. Christian Watson was playing well, who actually did lead this game due to injury as well. Josh Jacobs had a hell of a game. They were winning this game at halftime. And the Broncos, I don't know what Sean Payton said to them in the locker room. Bo Nix flipped the switch and put his cape on. Had, I believe, 4 touchdowns in this game. This guy was a monster in the second half. Finding Cortland Sutton in the back of the end zone. Finding guys like Troy Franklin getting in the ball. RJ Harvey has been somebody that hasn't been getting the majority of the love just due to all these other backs out there. But I thought he's had a great second half to his season. And I have been seeing the comparisons to a young AK from when Sean Payton was there back in New Orleans. And when he was, the way that he's been utilized has been similar to how Alvin Kamara was used in New Orleans. I'm not saying he's the exact same player, but the styles and how the usage from RJ Harvey, and you look back at when AK year 1, year 2, year 3, and what RJ Harvey is doing is very similar. And Hand Up did have RJ Harvey drafted on one of my fantasy teams, dropped him like game 6. He just wasn't he wasn't playing.
Shame.
Playing. He wasn't doing anything. And so I dropped him, and then all of a sudden he's just been a hot commodity on the open market. So this Broncos defense also, a lot of people do forget that the Broncos are still paying Russell Wilson. He is still making that's why he's not tripping. He just got his hand there. Hey, coach, you need me out there? All right, you need me to go get you some water? Don't worry about it. He knows the check is being cleared by the Walmart family. And those guys, how they've been drafting guys like Nick Bonito, Patrick Surtain, signing guys like Dre Greenlaw, and also Talanoa Funga, who's been making plays left and right ever since he's been in Denver. This defense has almost been the talk of the town for this Broncos team. And a lot of the times had to pick up the team when Bo Nix has been struggling. And a lot of people like to, bag on them for the Thursday night game that they had against the Raiders. As though they got lucky, blah, blah, blah. I understand. A lot of guys are here to judge, but I'm one of those guys to kind of step back and take a look at it from a lens of, okay, Bo Nix is a young quarterback with a hell of a offensive-minded coach. A little bit more rigid, tougher to get along with, and I do believe Gray Wolf is posting the stats. Broncos fan would like to.
Proud Broncos fan. As Gray Wolf said, Nix is going through his progressions more comfortably, 400 TDs and 300 yards. Continue, Jaevon.
Come on, man. But this would have been the game that I look at from a gambling perspective. I probably would have gotten whooped by the Patriots because we'll probably talk about that later. And then I'm looking at it from, Denver is another home dog. Who's to say they can't beat the Packers? That would have been a game that would have been like, probably going to take the Broncos. Just looking at it from hindsight after getting smacked in the opening games, the morning games, you're like, I need to get my mind right. I need to get back. I probably would have ended up gambling on the Broncos. But the Denver Broncos have the best record in the AFC. Like, guys, we got to start talking about. I understand we just got done talking about the Chiefs. Who does the AFC run through Denver? Does the AFC run through Denver now? I understand the Bills. A lot of people are looking like it's open season. This is our chance. This is our chance. Mahomes is gone. So they're all looking at who's going to be the next one. Is it Josh Allen? Is it one of these young guys? Is it Drake May? Is it Bo Nix? Who would have thought that? Because Joe Burrow's not making the playoffs. Lamar is kind of limping and lingering, and you got God knows who's coming out of the AFC South. And the AFC, like the Chargers are one of those teams like, hey, maybe don't forget about us. We can still kind of make things happen. But this Broncos team has definitely the defense that's going to travel in the playoffs. It's going to be very, very cold. A lot of people forget how hard it is to play in Mile High because there hasn't really been a playoff game in Mile High since Peyton Manning. So they're going to be a team to tough out. I know we had a factor cap a while back, a couple of episodes back. Are we going to see a Denver? Are we going to see a Denver Patriots AFC Championship game? It's looking very, very possible. But there are a couple of teams that want to throw their hat in the ring. But Denver is looking like a team that probably is going to make the AFC Championship game.
Well, during everything you just said there, I threw up on the screen the infamous Drewski meme because it's like the Broncos are the best team in the AFC. And it's like, oh, hey, it's Shrek because are we really believing in the Broncos? But when it comes to that factor cap of will the Broncos and Patriots play in the AFC Championship game, just like we saw with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, the Buffalo Bills would argue otherwise because the New England Patriots, they pulled out the Tyrese Halliburton with a full-on choke. And so I feel like if Josh Allen was going to win a Super Bowl anytime soon, now is the time. Like we were talking about John Cena at the top of the show. One of his slogans and catchphrases was, the time is now. My time is now. That's what Josh Allen is saying. He's saying Mahomes didn't have to get injured. The Chiefs already were on their way out from being eliminated from the playoffs. But just when it comes to this season overall, Josh Allen has to be saying, my time is now. He just announced that he's going to be a father. He's having a baby with his wife, Haley.
I did see that. That was that.
And so it's like, what's a better way to bring a child into this world other than as a Super Bowl champion? So I do think that now, especially now that the boogeyman has been eliminated from playoff contention, I feel like the Bills are the ones who are really saying that this is going to be their season. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. As Grey Wolf says, he believes. And so we will have to wait and see if Bo Nix can get the job done in the playoffs because also, as Grey Wolf notes, the Broncos clinched a playoff spot. So congratulations to them. I'm happy for the Broncos.
I got division too. Probably not.
I don't think they've clinched the division yet, but I think they clinched a playoff spot. So they're at least guaranteed a wild card spot, depending on what happens with the Chargers. And also, you talked about the fact that you picked the Packers in this game. I did, and so did Kaz. So shout out to Kevin for getting this one right. Right now, I have a one-game lead on our Stats Over Politics pick'em. Kevin's right behind me, and I think he might have jumped ahead of me after this week because he had the Denver Broncos in this one. So kudos to him as we keep things moving here on episode 172 of Stats Over Politics. Shaun Holko alongside Jaevon Toddy. All right, Toddy, it's time to recap the remaining games from the NFL, and we're going to get to each game in a minute or less. I'll start things off with the Falcons beating the Buccaneers 29-28 on Thursday Night Football. Kirk Cousins, he's back, and despite trailing by 14 points in this game, Kirk Cousins led the Falcons to a victory as they get the 29-28 win in Tampa Bay. This is the second straight bad loss within the NFC South for the Buccaneers. We all thought, ya boy, Baker Mayfield was going to be leading this team to the division championship in a landslide. But instead, as you indicate on the screen, they are taking a bit of a slide. And now the door is wide open for the Carolina Panthers because the Saints aren't winning this division. The Falcons at 5-9, I don't think they're going to win this division, even with Tampa Bay at 7-7. But it's just sad for the Buccaneers because this was their division to have, and they're just letting it slip out of their hands. This next game, Jaevon, I'm tossing over to you. And, you talked about it being a victory Monday for the San Francisco 49ers in our intro. Shame on me. I didn't throw the great picture of Mako on the screen because it's a victory Monday as the 49ers defeat the Titans 37-24.
Doing Dougie. Yeah. Purdy, 300 plus 3 touchdowns, albeit it was against the Titans. This game was really close. I know the score does indicate that it was a little bit closer. 13 point, almost 2 touchdown victory. Could have been a lot bigger than that. I do think we saw what we needed to see. Pearsall went out with a hip drop tackle. I think he came back. He played really good. 5 catches for 96 yards. So I thought he looked really good. Kittle is just a monster still. I don't know why people just think he fell off for some weird reason. Just Kittle, whenever he's healthy. I just think he's just such a big part of the run game that people are like, he should be lining up at the slot and doing this. He can do all of those things. That's what makes him so great. And I thought Jawan Jennings, he was a monster in this game, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I think the Titans they just got to get better everywhere. And this is not going to be an overnight thing for them. So big one for the Niners. 4 in a row, 10-4.
4 in a row, 10-4. And before we get to the next game, I just wanted to highlight a couple comments from Grey Wolf, who says Kirko chains. Then he also added that Kyle Pitts balled out in that Falcons comeback win in Tampa Bay. And the reason why I did not talk about that, Grey Wolf, is because that was absolutely a gut punch for me, because I entered the first week of the fantasy football playoffs in one of my leagues and left Kyle Pitts on my bench. Thankfully, I prevailed by 7 points, and I'm advancing to the next round. But if I did not advance, I would have felt even worse about Kyle Pitts finally having his breakout game, and the fact that I left him on my bench where he just absolutely balled out. I mean, Kyle Pitts had 11 receptions on 12 targets for 166 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kirko chains, man. He was finally giving the ball to Kyle Pitts.
40 points. He was on my bench. I lost by 5 points.
Oh, you were with me on that, but you fell on the other end. I'm really sorry to hear that, Jaevon. Now I feel bad.
I had Sunday Night Football. I had Justin Jefferson and Dak Prescott.
I
went against CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Aubrey and still lost.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's been a rough year for Justin Jefferson owners in fantasy, just because it's hard for him to get the ball. And so I'm sorry about that, Jaevon. And one other thing Grey Wolf says before we continue on to the next game is the Panthers could do the funniest thing and win the division, which I think would be absolutely hilarious. But earlier we were talking about how I believe that this could be the Bills' year. And if they lose yesterday, then I don't think any of us are saying that. But they came back from down 21 points to snap the Patriots' 10-game winning streak. And we remember that New England won early in the season in Buffalo on Sunday Night Football. And so for Buffalo to come back in this game and win 35-31 after trailing 21-0, credit to them, because they would have been basically dead in the water. They got 21 skunked and they came all the way back. And so maybe it really is Josh Allen's year. Maybe this is it for Buffalo. We'll have to wait and see. That's why the playoffs are so great. As Jaevon, if you could bring us to, this was an interesting matchup because in the preseason, a lot of people on this panel and a lot of people around the world picked the Ravens as their Super Bowl prediction. It hasn't gone the Ravens' way this year with a lot of injuries. I went out into left field and I picked the Bengals. So that looked terrible. As you could break down for me, the Ravens beating the Bengals 24-0.
Belt ass. Not much to add here. Burrow even came out and said anybody in the league would have me as their quarterback, they're going to lose. I thought Lamar got a swagger back a little bit. The defense had the pick six. I think that was Kyle Hamilton that had the pick six, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong. I just thought just all the way around, the Bengals just didn't They look kind of shot. And it's kind of tough for Joe Burrow because he is coming back from a turf toe injury, and the team is kind of like banking on him to come back and lead them the entire way. Just he's already behind the eight ball and he's hurt. We need you to save us. You're our only hope. If we have a chance, we just as long as we get Joe Burrow back, we can run the table, and that's just asking a lot from a team who has been very one-sided because their offense is so top-heavy with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who didn't play in this game due to injury, concussion, and their defense just me and you out there. Hey, go ahead and guard that guy.
You would do better than me. To be fair, you would do better than me.
Good luck. So, and you kind of see it in Joe Burrow's press conference. It could be a little bit of off the field stuff mixed with they're getting their ass whooped. So, be on the lookout for Joe Burrow and maybe not playing in Cincinnati in the near future. Not saying that it's not a possibility, but something to monitor. He is making a lot of money, and they're still losing games. So, both can't be true.
That's a great point. And just to follow up on something you said, the pick six came from Alohi Gilman from 84 yards out for Baltimore with just over 7 minutes left in this game to put them up 24-0. So, like you said, belt to ass. More belt to ass came in Jacksonville as the Jaguars beat the Jets 48-20. Trevor Lawrence had 6 touchdowns in this game. Yeah, it's the New York Jets. Huh?
I said, who does he think he is now? I had him on my fantasy team. I had to drop him. Like, now he wants to start doing all of this.
Man, I mean, 20 of 32, 330 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. And then he also carried the ball 5 times for 51 yards and rushed for a touchdown. Maybe Trevor Lawrence listens to this podcast and he heard me calling him a bust. And now he's like, it's time for me to prove that I'm not a bust. I always said that he was a bust based on the expectations he had coming into the league. Now he has the Jaguars at 10-4. And so kudos to him. The Jags are 10-4.
Oh, and my God.
That AFC South, Jaevon, has actually gotten so interesting. We were talking at the beginning of the season, like, is someone going to win the AFC South by default? And that someone is the Houston Texans. But now you look at the AFC South, you got the Jags at 10-4, the Texans at 9-5, and the Colts at 8-6. That is sneakily the second best division in football behind the NFC West.
Kind of.
I mean,
yeah.
It's
I think
interesting.
The Jags to win the division. I think me and Kev were the only two on the pod to pick the Jags to win the division. They're in the driver's seat.
I had the Texans, so we'll see if the Jags can finish the job.
They all now play each other the last couple of games of the year, right? They play.
Yep, and so it's gonna get juicy. Just not only in the NFC West, where we see this upcoming Thursday, the Seahawks and the Rams play each other, but then the 49ers got the Rams at home to end the season, and so it's about to get real.
Seattle. In the season.
Or excuse me, Seattle. I said the Rams. Excuse me. Thank you for correcting me on that. Yeah, we play Seattle because we already played the Rams twice. We beat them on Thursday Night Football, and then they gave us belt to ass at Levi's. So that is correct. So, yeah, we play Seattle to end the season. But the 49ers also play the Chicago Bears. I know you're going to be feeling a little torn during that game, Jaevon, but the 49ers play the Bears on Sunday Night Football in what will be a great NFC West battle, or excuse me, NFC battle. But if you could get to this next game for us, Jaevon, the Texans, who are now 9-5, they beat the Cardinals 40-20.
Cardinals are just really bad all around. They got a lot to kind of figure out. I do understand they have a lot of injuries. Marvin Harrison Jr. is out. James Conner, who's been out the majority of the season, and also Kyler Murray. Now I don't know what his future holds moving forward. He's got a pretty big contract that the Cardinals are tied to. Maybe they might.
He's going to play Call of Duty.
I mean, Black Ops came out a little under a month ago. It's probably doing that as we speak.
We know what he's doing.
The Texans are they got new life out of nowhere. The offense looks like it's humming. This is a good team to get their swagger back against. Obviously, this defense has been on a generational run these past, really the whole entire season. D'Amico Ryans has been scheming up a hell of a defensive plan week in and week out. And C.J. Stroud is kind of coming in his own a little bit more after being out 2 games with a concussion. And we're starting to see Nico Collins get the ball. They're getting Woody Marks involved. I think this team can be one of those teams in the playoffs. Like, hey, another AFC team, don't forget about us. We're pretty good too. And we're coming down to the home stretch of that AFC South and how the Jags are only a game up on the Texans. And it's going to come down to these last couple of games on who's going to win that division, who's going to host a playoff game. Could be one of the top 3 seeds in the AFC.
It'll be interesting. And now this next game that I got was a bit of a toilet bowl in the NFC least. And that is the Washington Commanders defeating the New York Giants 29-21. And my takeaway from this game is, hey, Jake Moody, we remember that guy. He had 3 field goals in this game for Washington. He originally signed with Chicago. He was with Chicago. Then he got picked up off the Bears practice squad by the Commanders. And now he's in Washington, kicking 3 field goals for a team and a win. Congratulations, Jake Moody. I have no other analysis on this game. If you could get to this next one, Jaevon, it's your team who your real team is going to be seeing soon as the Bears beat the Browns 31-3.
Hey, man, I don't know how the Bears will do it. The Bears are 10-4, albeit it was against the hapless Cleveland Browns. Still rooting for Shador. Myles Garrett got a sack in this game. He's 2 away from the record, which is pretty insane on the team's 3-11. Caleb, man, just 2 touchdowns, 242, no picks. DJ Moore played really well in this game. DeAndre Swift, they've been running the ball pretty well. The 2-headed attack with him and Monungai has been pretty effective the majority of this season, and I kind of like that 2-headed combo that they have going down in Chicago, and I think Ben Johnson does have a lot to do with that because he has experience with a 2-headed monster back in Detroit with obviously Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, but
Sonic and Knuckles.
Maybe to not to that extent, but I do think having that dual running back system has been very effective for Chicago. Luther Burden was balling in this game, 6 for 84 yards. I do think the Chicago team, when their defense is playing well and they're running the ball well, they can be very effective offensively in the play action with Caleb Williams, getting him on the move, getting Caleb out of the pocket and being able to use his legs a little bit more. The Chicago team is, I think, they're a team that you're going to watch out. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to win their division. Some might say that someone guessed that this would happen. Not saying who it was. Maybe he is on this podcast, but it's happening. So, did believe that Ben Johnson would be pretty hands-on in the Caleb Williams experience, and it's paying off.
Yeah, that guy, he was the one to my right. And so, well, at least right on the screen. I'm looking left, but you're to the right on my screen. And so kudos to you, Jaevon, for that. We'll see what the Bears do when they get to the playoffs, but the Bears still play the Lions, and with Micah Parsons out for the year for the Packers, it feels like Bears-Lions in Chicago late in the season, that's where the division is going to come down to. And it's going to be real cold, as it was against the Browns. So will Caleb rise to the occasion in the cold as he's been doing? Or will Jared Goff, who people say can't play in the cold, will he go out there and ball out? We'll have to wait and see. But as Gray Wolf was saying with that Texans and Cardinals game, believe it or not, Jacoby Brissett is actually performing really well based off stats. And I completely agree with that because he was a pickup for me in fantasy. As I saw he was putting up numbers and I was like, let me give him a shot. And he has continued to put up numbers. They may be empty stats, but hey, I'll take it as a fantasy football player.
Are always losing. He's throwing.
Yep.
He's chucking it.
Exactly.
Chucking it.
He is always chucking it. And we were talking belt to ass earlier. This was another one that was belt to ass as the Eagles beat the Raiders 31-0. And the Eagles needed this one. They had lost 3 games in a row. They were playing the lowly Raiders at home. They had to do this, and the Eagles took care of business as they should have. So I bet Kevin and Kaz, they're both happy right now. They probably wouldn't have as much to say about this game either because the Eagles basically just did what they had to do. No ifs, ands, or buts about this. This is what the Eagles had to do. They took care of business. My only other thing to say about this game is that I was on my way home from Southern California on Sunday morning with my boss as I covered the California football state championships down in SoCal this weekend for West Coast Preps. And my boss is a Raiders fan. Shout out to Chris. I put this game on as we were about to leave our hotel, and he was just like, oh, this is terrible. And then when we were driving back and I told him the score and I told him it was 31-0, he was happy about it because he's at the point where he's so dead inside as a Raiders fan that he's just looking at the draft pick. And so 31-0, hey, it was good news for the Eagles and the Raiders fans. So congrats to the Raiders fans for getting one step closer to Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner, who we will talk about after this segment. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. Something else that Grey Wolf said is that the Colts fell off hard. The Colts introduced 44-year-old Phillip Rivers back to the roster this week. He hasn't played in 5 years, but he made the start in Seattle for the Seahawks as the Seahawks squeaked by Phillip Rivers and the Colts, 18-16, Jaevon. So what was your takeaway from this one? Are the Colts alive with Phillip Rivers? Did Seattle have a bad game? What happened here?
I think the Colts got a little bit of juice to him. I think Phillip Rivers obviously is a little bit just athletically, he's not all the way there. But I think
he can hardly run. I'm sure you saw that play where he almost got sacked, fell down, got back up, but it took him like 5 seconds to get back up because he's so old.
He is a guy that can beat you with his mental, like neck up. Phillip Rivers is one of those, like, I think he's like 7th all time in pass yards. Like, that's pretty insane. So obviously he's not there physically, but I do think the way that he's kind of like a coach on the field, and off the field he's actually is a high school coach. So that's pretty insane. And I did see that the Colt, like his high school team runs like the same offense that the Colts run because him and Shane Steichen are pretty close off the field. So I thought that was really cool. And I mean, the Colts Phillip Rivers led a potential game-winning drive. He had a really nice pass down the sideline to Alec Pierce, which was like Alec Pierce's only catch of the game, and it put them in field goal range. And I think with like 40-ish something seconds left, the Colts were winning this game, and they were 13.5-point dogs going into this game. So I do think the Seahawks, it took them a game-winning drive to beat an old man. So, I mean, hey, I do still think the Colts have a chance with Phillip Rivers as their quarterback, just due to the fact that I think he's an older veteran who's been around the league that just knows the game. You could see that just in the first couple of like series, you just see that he's still like mentally it's all there, but just physically he's not able to get the passes are not gonna like he threw a ball. I think it was I forget who it was to, but it kind of just like skipped. And you're like, that's just kind of what you're gonna get.
It's not a rock.
That's just what you're gonna get when he's 44-year-old quarterback. So I do think the Colts definitely have a fighting chance. I don't know how good that chance is, but they play the Niners. I think they play like Jacksonville. They play like a bunch of playoff. They're playing like all playoff teams down the stretch, and it's not ideal when you're asking this guy to come off the street and just please win us games, and here are your 3 games. So, congrats to the Seahawks, I guess, but kind of was hoping they would lose. kind of was hoping Philly Rivers would do it to him as a Niner fan.
I was really rooting for Phillip Rivers as well. And that Colts game as a 49ers fan looks so much better now than it did earlier in the year when they were 7-1. Like we were looking at the back end of the 49ers schedule and we were like, oh my God, we have to play the Colts. And it's like, hey, we get to play the Colts and Phillip Rivers. Cool. And as Grey Wolf was saying on YouTube, when the Colts got their 3rd loss, everyone stopped talking about them. Rivers came back for the NFL benefits. That's pretty funny because he was just about to hit the 5-year mark on losing his NFL benefits because 5 years after you retire, you're no longer on the NFL benefit plans. Phillip Rivers, with his 10 children or so, he needs those NFL benefits. So that was also a no-brainer for him to come back. And as Grey Wolf also says, Jason Myers won that game for Seattle. And fun fact about Jason Myers is that he grew up in Chula Vista and he went to modern day high school. And so he went to an absolute juggernaut in SoCal, and he grew up a Chargers fan. And so he said on the Pat McAfee show that it was actually pretty sad for him to put the nail in the coffin for Phillip Rivers to not let him lead to his
Went
team.
6 for 6. They didn't score any touchdowns. All field goals.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So credit to Jason Myers for that. As getting to this next game, Jaevon, I got this one. And this one was another shocker in the NFC South as the Saints beat the Panthers 20-17. And you look at the Saints, they're 4-10. Half of their wins have come against the Panthers because they swept them this season. And it's like we were just talking about the Buccaneers having the NFC South in their hands, and they had to basically drop it to not win that division. And they're on their way to doing that. The Panthers said, hold my beer, because, hey, we've beat the Packers, we beat the Rams, but we're going to lose to the Saints twice. And so it's like, who wants to win this division? Who wants to win this division? That's what I'm wondering. But nevertheless, congrats to the Saints who beat the Panthers 20-17. It's a toss-up who's going to win the NFC South, but I think whoever wins the NFC South is going to lose that first playoff game on their home field because they're going to get to host as a division winner, but they're going to lose. Put them on upset alert. I don't even know if you could consider it an upset when you have probably two teams from the NFC West that are going to be wild card teams with 12 or 13 wins. And so you got to say whoever gets out of that NFC South, they're not going to fare well in the playoffs. And I will be surprised if they do. And now, Jaevon, if you could get to this next game, it was a hell of a game. We've talked about a lot of stinkers, but this one was a great one as it didn't go our way as 49ers fans, but the Rams won 41-34 as Matthew Stafford gets some revenge against his old team.
Yeah, Goff threw for 338 and 3 touchdowns. So they're winning this game at halftime. They're up a touchdown at half. I did see that Devontae Adams went out in this game as well. Puka Nacua also did go out in this game, but did end up coming back. He had a monster game. Stafford threw for 368, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Kyron Williams had 2 touchdowns on the ground for them. So I think turnovers did play a role for the Rams, not the Rams, for the Lions, not really being able to keep the ball withstanding, but the Rams had to put up 41 in this game. So very high scoring game. I do think the Rams are one of those teams they're currently number 1 in the NFC. So they're one of those teams that going into the playoffs, you're going to have to be able to score points against them because they can go tick for tack with you offensively. And we do know that McVay is going to scheme any game plan possible, any which way to be able to score more points than the other team. And I do think we need to know the severity of Devontae Adams and how bad that hamstring injury is. He's an older receiver, but can still wiggle and create separation for himself. So I think he's going to be a big player for them going into the playoffs. But as of right now, I do think Matthew Stafford is the MVP of the league. And I think he's the odds-on favorite currently as well. But I do think this Rams team is very, very talented, and how quickly they've been able to kind of reset their team and their identity in the past couple of years after the retirement of Aaron Donald and some other guys. They've had to move off from, like Jalen Ramsey in the past, who's making a ton of money, and just pivoting themselves, going younger defensively, and not really having picks and still being able to draft pretty well. So you got to give credit to Sam Kroenke and Les Snead in the front office. So Matthew Stafford, right now, currently, I think is probably going to win the MVP. I do think this Lions team is they're fighting for their playoff lives currently right now. Shaun already mentioned the game that they're going to play against Chicago, I believe you said, is going to be pretty big for them. So we'll see as far as that goes, but hats off to the Rams.
Yeah, we will see how that game goes, but the Rams win another big matchup, and so kudos to them. You mentioned Matt Stafford as potentially an MVP. I saw a tweet early on Sunday that really made me laugh, and it basically said that like Drake May shit the bed against the Bills, and Matt Stafford threw an interception. So that opens the MVP race for Phillip Rivers to win it. And so I thought it was pretty great.
That
But
is
as you said,
hilarious.
Matt Stafford is the MVP front runner at this point. And as Grey Wolf says for Devontae Adams, it's a week to week injury. And so I'd never like to root for player injuries. And so it's like, I hope he gets back soon. But also, if he doesn't, it would benefit the 49ers just in regard to trying to win the NFC West. As we're getting to these last couple games here from week 15, and then we're going to close things out with the Heisman Trophy ceremony. But this last game that I'm getting to was on Sunday Night Football as the Vikings beat the Cowboys 34-26. And Uncle Manny said earlier, there's always next year because, yeah, the Cowboys, they were officially eliminated. And we always like, hi, Mako, as we always like to show this graphic as we have Mako Toddy making a guest appearance on the show. Toddy, I'm going to put you on the big screen because we got to see the little guy. But we always put this Cowboys graphic on the screen of the Dallas Cowboys cycle. But for Uncle Manny, and Mako loves it as well, for Uncle Manny, we got a new graphic for you where it says, just checking in to see if y'all still dem boys, as we see all the teams that the Cowboys have lost to this season. And now that includes J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings, as the Cowboys defense found a way to make J.J. McCarthy look good in this game. And so that was pretty remarkable. And Uncle Manny, he loves the just checking in to see if they are still them boys. Another season, another lost season for the Dallas Cowboys. And so we bid them adieu. Jaevon and Mako, if you could get to this last game for us that happened on Monday Night Football. The Dolphins went to Pittsburgh and lost to the Steelers 28-15.
Yeah, this was a Aaron Rodgers game, man. Kind of turned the clock back a little bit. He was making a bunch of really, really good throws. I did have Darren Waller in my fantasy, so in the league that I needed him most, he did not perform. But in the league, the Toilet Bowl league, put up 24 points. So that was really cool to see. Just whenever Tua gets in really, really cold, frigid weather, it's very tough for them to perform at a very high level. So probably should have picked the Steelers to win.
Yeah, that's understandable. I believe that I picked the Steelers to win this game. And the Dolphins have been playing well as of late, though. And so to see them compete for a little bit in this game wasn't necessarily surprising. But Pittsburgh, this was one of those wins that they had to get. And Uncle Manny put this emoji, Jaevon, because he said the emoji was for your handsome kiddo. And so thank you for clearing that up, Uncle Manny. As now we're closing things out here on episode number 172 of Stats Over Politics. Shaun Hoko alongside Jaevon Toddy. Toddy, we had the Heisman Trophy ceremony this past weekend, and the quarterback from Indiana, which has never happened before, Fernando Mendoza, wins the Heisman Trophy. And we had Pavia from Vanderbilt get second. He acted classy during the ceremony, but then he started saying, fuck the voters on Instagram right after. So great job by Diego Pavia. And then we also had Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, the running back, and Julian Sayin, the quarterback from the Ohio State University, there as the runners up. But the thing I wanted to ask you about this, Jaevon, because when I was down in SoCal this past weekend with my coworkers to cover the high school football state championships, when we saw that Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman, we all thought it was well-deserved, but also it led to the discussion of Mendoza is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Mendoza is the worst Heisman Trophy winner since Troy Smith from Ohio State in 2006, because we ran through the list of names until we got to Troy Smith in 2006. And to us, Fernando Mendoza was the worst Heisman since Troy Smith in 2006. And I feel bad saying that because he worked really hard, came from Cal, came out of nowhere to win the Heisman Trophy, and now he's going to be a high NFL draft pick. But just what was your reaction to Mendoza winning the Heisman, and where does he rank in the 21st century, in your opinion?
I thought the award should have probably went to Diego Pavia. I think his stats overall was better than Fernando Mendoza, than Julian Sand. I get Julian Sand had a really, really high completion percentage, like a record-setting one. I just think Mendoza's stats weren't really up to par. I think his team is really kind of up there when it comes down to how good their team is. I mean, hell, they're the number one seed in the whole entire playoff. Mendoza, I think, is a really, really good quarterback. I just don't think that there really wasn't really a guy in this year's Heisman race that's like, that guy is the number one best player in the country. He should absolutely win the Heisman. I don't think we had that this year. I do think Fernando Mendoza was the last guy that everyone saw play, and it just so happens that he beat Ohio State, the powerhouse, the number one team in the country, kind of throughout the entire year, obviously. And for
the reigning champs.
And I thought Indiana had a really good year. Obviously, going on the road to beat Oregon, that was like their game that kind of catapulted them as being one of the top teams in the country. And then they make the Big Ten championship game, and then they play against Ohio State. They keep Ohio State under They held them to 13 points. And I don't think no one's done that all season. Ohio State hasn't even trailed all season. And they were trailing for the majority of this game. And I do think the world saw that and was like, he's the Heisman winner. And I'm just like, whoa, like, let's say. I thought it should have went to Diego Pavia, just from a stat perspective, from a Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was 10-2 this year. Vanderbilt.
Yeah, but Indiana has been very bad for a very long time. So
they went to the playoff last year, though. That's my only thing.
That's true. That's a great point. That is a great point.
They went to the playoff last year, and Mendoza was at Cal, and he was getting his ass kicked. And Pavia was at Vanderbilt, kind of building up his name, their team, pedigree, and they've kind of built something in Vanderbilt now. And Vanderbilt was if they wouldn't have lost to Texas, Vanderbilt would probably be in the playoff currently right now. And I don't know if they would have been playing the SEC championship game, but they would have probably, if they were 10-1 instead of 10-2, Vanderbilt, or 11-1 instead of 10-2, Pavia probably wins the Heisman. I just think Fernando Mendoza was the last person to play, and everyone saw that, and they were like, he's the Heisman winner. Give him the Heisman now. Mail it to him. I have nothing against Fernando Mendoza. I think he's going to be a top 4 pick. I think it's probably going to be one of the and I did see something that Dante Moore was probably going to stay at Oregon. So Mendoza is probably going to be the highest quarterback drafted this year. So he's a Heisman winner. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in the league. I just don't think he was the best player. I just didn't think he should have won the Heisman this year. I thought it should have went to Pavia.
Yeah, that's fair to say, and that's how I felt last year. I thought that Ashton Jeanty should have won the Heisman rather than Travis Hunter, even though Travis Hunter, he did something that we've never seen before, and it's like that's why Travis Hunter ultimately won the Heisman. But I was in the boat for Ashton Jeanty last year. My favorite thing from I had two things. My favorite thing that I thought was funny from Heisman Trophy weekend was when they took the photo, all four of them together, and Diego Pavia, he was like way shorter than everyone else, even though their height is all listed around like 6'2" or so. And I thought that was pretty funny. And people like to joke like, oh, Pavia is short, but it's like we've seen that become a problem for a Kyler Murray or even a Bryce Young. Drew Brees is a guy who was great despite being a shorter quarterback. So how that affects Diego Pavia, that's what I'm really interested to see when it comes to the NFL. I think Fernando Mendoza, I think he will translate to the NFL, but I don't know if he has that superstar potential. I think his ceiling is a Jared Goff, Alex Smith game manager type, where he can go out there and get you wins, but is he going to take over a game for you? I haven't seen that yet. I don't know if that's going to translate to the NFL, but he has the intangibles. He's tall. He's got the mechanics. And so I'm rooting for him because Fernando Mendoza has a great story. He seems like a great guy. And so I was happy to see him win the Heisman. But my other takeaway from this weekend, Jaevon, before we get out of here, is I didn't expect Julian Sayin to win the Heisman. I expected it to be Mendoza or even Pavia. But I think the Buckeyes are motivated coming into the college football playoff because you take a look at the media, Jaevon, at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, and there's a video that circulated around TikTok, Instagram, and Pavia and Mendoza and even Jeremiah Love, they are all getting lots of love from the media. Everyone's interviewing them. But you look at the great quarterback from the Ohio State University, and there's only one media member talking to Sayin. And some people were saying, oh, well, the media only goes to New York if they think that their guy is going to win. And so no one thought Sayin was going to win. They didn't have any Ohio press out there to interview him throughout the process. But everyone's looking down on Ohio State right now. They just lost to mighty Indiana. And I believe that Ohio State is going to come into this college football playoff motivated. They're going to win multiple games by a blowout, and then they're going to go on to repeat as national champions. Congrats to Mendoza. Congrats to Indiana. You got your Big Ten championship for the first time ever. You had your first Hoosier win the Heisman. But the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to repeat as the national champions. And I think the Heisman Trophy ceremony only motivated the Buckeyes more. And so that's my takeaways from it. Any final thoughts, Jaevon, before we get out of here? I see you just had to mute yourself, but do you have any final thoughts before I get us out of here?
I do want you guys to be very grateful for Nick Saban, how he gift wrapped you guys, I don't know, Julian Sayin and Caleb Downs. They just fell right out of the sky. After a playoff game, Saban retires. Those two guys hit the portal, and guess where they go? Ohio State. Thank you.
God bless Nick Saban. God bless Nick Saban. Thank you, sir. God bless you, because Sayin and Downs, those are two of the guys who are
should be on dudes. Alabama right now.
Yeah, they should. They should be on the Crimson Tide, but they're Buckeyes now, and they're motivated after their first loss. Sayin is motivated. I mean, I even looked at it, and ESPN was doing a preview show for it, and they had, if you look at the top 10 prospects for the Heisman, like only the top 4 go to New York. But if you look at the top 10, the Buckeyes would have had 3, and that's Caleb Downs, Julian Sayin, and Jeremiah Smith. And so I think that trio are motivated after the Buckeyes suffered their first loss, and they're ready to repeat as national champions. Because let's not forget, before the Buckeyes started the playoff last year, they lost to Michigan. We haven't even talked about Shaun Moore. That situation started out funny, and it ended real sad. It's still a developing situation, but it's a bad situation. You can look it up if you don't know what we're talking about. But Shaun Moore led the Wolverines to a win against Ohio State last year, and the Buckeyes went into the college football playoff last year motivated. They're motivated again. They're motivated again coming into the college football playoffs this season after that loss in the Big Ten championship. And so as a Buckeyes fan, I'm looking forward to it. And it's time to get out of here for episode number 172 of Stats Over Politics. Good night to Grey Wolf. We appreciate you for always tuning in. As he says, good night, gentlemen. And that's going to do it for episode number 172 of Stats Over Politics. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps us a lot. And if you enjoyed the podcast, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics, and on X at Stats or Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. And if you're enjoying the show, give us those 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you guys have been tuned into episode number 172 of Stats Over Politics, for my guys, Jaevon Toddy, Kevin Dent, Kaz Johnson, Gary Singh, and Alex Dent, I'm your host, Shaun Holko. Thank you for tuning in. And Jaevon, will we see you on Friday for an NBA episode of Stats Over Politics?
I'll be there.
All right. Kevin and Jaevon are going to be holding it down on Friday for our NBA episode. And so we look forward to that. And we'll see you all then.